All right, this is a big one. This is close to the heart. Agile, Scrum, Kanban, whatever implementation of it you're doing, you're probably doing it wrong. I speak on behalf of all developers, engineers, and probably a lot of management that Agile is pain. And it's probably this kind of Agile, Scrum, waterfall combination that everyone seems to have implemented in the last 10 years. I've found myself doing all sorts of implementations, and all of it has been pain. We've had Scrum Masters that seemingly don't really do anything, have these roles in these teams and pressure developers and kind of set out. And I spend more time in meetings and ceremonies than actually doing any work. And it's just all of a load of craziness. So we're going to hear right now from Uncle Bob, Robert Martin, one of the kind of signatories, the original founding fathers of Scrum, of Agile, sorry. And yeah, we're going to see a little bit about where we're going wrong, or what it was originally intended for, and how it was originally intended to be used. So yeah, let's not waste any time.
Okay. Well, speaking of Agile, that's pretty kind of a hot topic here. How do you feel? Because you obviously signed the original. You're one of the signatories, or whatever they call, whatever word they use there, of the original Agile Manifesto.
Yes.
How do you feel like the last, what is it, 23 years have gone since the Agile Manifesto has come out?
I wrote an entire book describing my feelings about that topic. It's called Clean Agile.
There's something I need to check out, actually. I didn't know until I first watched this through. I want to check that out. I'm interested. I'm definitely interested if there's better ways to kind of massage the OG Agile into kind of organizations.
I'm the old fuddy-duddy who's yelling at the young kids to get off his lawn, right? The agile message has gotten so badly twisted and torqued and perverted that I wrote that book to try and reboot the whole thing and say, well, no, that's not what we were saying. You know, what we were saying is something else.
I feel like it needs to be in video form. These days, like, people read books, people read software books, but it's mainly more like the millennial coders that are reading books. Like, we need videos on this. So maybe I'll read it and maybe I'll make some videos about it. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that.
Agile was a small idea for helping small teams do small things. It was not the overarching pattern of software development that was to dominate the world. It was just a way to get 6 or 7 guys to be able to work well together.
Which often, we're not, from my experience anyway, I'm not usually working in teams that are bigger than, 4, 5, 6, 7 at a stretch. So in theory, it should work. But why? Why has it gone wrong?
Okay. So what made it fall apart then?
I can tell you that exactly. How long do you have?
I have to help my wife move in 26 minutes.
Okay, well, this won't take that long. One of us decided that we wanted, a Scrum advocate, Ken Schwaber, decided that he wanted to teach a course called the Certified Scrum Master course.
And Scrum's fine.
And he came
Scrum
to me
Master's
and he
not
said,
fine.
hey, Bob, can I borrow one of your offices or one of your classrooms so that I can teach this? And I said, yeah, go ahead, Ken, that's fine. And he taught the very first Certified Scrum Master course, and the idea just took off. Everybody wanted to be a Certified Scrum Master. Not one programmer wanted to be a certified.
Which I think is a big part of the problem, right? If we had like advocates for Scrum or the implementation of Scrum from a developer's perspective within the team, but it's not. It's this kind of like almost like obfuscated role, this kind of extracted role that sits kind of in between developers and middle management, and doesn't ever have, supposed to protect the team, but doesn't have the team's interest at heart. Yeah.
All the project managers wanted it. They wanted that little checkbox on their resume. And the project managers flooded into the field. They flooded into Agile. They took over the message. They took over the conferences. They took over everything. And they literally pushed the programmers out. And Agile became a project management idea. And the programmers looked around like, they were left on the desert island and looked around like, well, how the hell did we wind up on this island? And why are they sailing away in our ship?
Oh,
That's what happened to Agile.
And they really did.
So what is the, because I often make this joke, which is Agile's a lot like communism. People just keep not trying it correctly. what is the correct way to Agile?
Oh, gee. It's a real simple idea, right? Uh, do things in really short sequences. Measure how much you get done at every sequence. Use that measurement to project an end date and tell everybody. That's kind of it. We could go into lower level details if you want, but that's pretty much it. Do things in real short segments, like 1 week long. Right? Measure how much you get done.
And a big part of why this doesn't work, in my experience, in agencies or even in-house development teams, where you're kind of beheld to stakeholders, which in most cases you are, because everything costs money and everything has a budget and everything, regardless of whether you're doing it for a client and it's billable or whether it's internal and it's got internal buy-in. The process of that buy-in or the billing or the sign-off is always very waterfall. So you've got a situation where the organization is selling something, whether that's internally or externally, to somebody that's providing the money, that's kind of signing it off, and then that process of like specking out that work and kind of there's no agile way of saying this is what we're going to deliver, and also can we have the budget for like maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll not do as much as that. And that's kind of where it falls apart, because there's no connection. So you end up having this big waterfall process to get to the point where you end up doing the agile in the engineering team, which is why then when you're trying to forecast or you're trying to project in these small teams, having this idea of like, okay, we achieved X, Y, and Z in a week, 6 weeks we should be able to achieve that times 6. That's why it doesn't work, because people want to know up front. So what happens is internal stakeholders will, or salespeople will tell the person that's paying for it essentially how long it's going to take, even though we don't really know how long it's going to take. So that's where you get this big conflict between how it's supposed to work or how it's intended to work and how it does work.
Project that out with an end date and then tell everybody, hey, that's the end date that we look like we're seeing. And generally that date is so terrifying that people are like, oh shit, maybe we've got to do something about this early enough to actually get something done.
And that's the point. That's what I'm saying, is that like your feedback loop, your actualization of not meeting that deadline, there is no opportunity to be agile. There's no like loop back to being like, okay, this is actually not going to take us, it's going to take us too long, what can we do? Because the expectations have already been set, there's no opportunity to reset the expectations because they've already been sold the dream, which doesn't fit the whole model in the first place. So there's really no point trying to do agile and trying to fit these scrums in, these sprints in, because we already know what we have to achieve and we already know the time frame. So there's no real opportunity to bend it or alter it, alter the delivery or reset the expectations, because we've already created a rod for our own back. We've already been sailed down the river, and you have to do what you have to do. So it's just like an illusion. It's just like, yeah, we're going to work really agile, but we're not. We kind of know what we have to do and we know how long we've got to do it. They just kind of hope we might do it sooner.
Okay.
That's
So proper agile has no dictates on how the team accomplishes, or even the timelines or the weeks, days that are used to measure these short cycles. Shall we call them sprints?
Yeah, in Scrum they're called sprints. There are individual implementations of Agile. So there's extreme programming, there's Scrum, there's FDD, there's DSDM, there's a whole bunch of these processes that are more.
The last two sounded like drugs more than anything else. Are we sure we're on the same topic? I'm pretty sure one of those is the dream drug. I've heard about it.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of them are dream drugs, but they are more defined. Agile is not. Agile is just this framework that says, hey, do it in short cycles, for Christ's sake.
And Agile's the bit where we do the doing. It also gets blamed often for why you don't do the do, but it's actually, we need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. That's why we're not doing the do, because we are screwed from the offset.
And that's kind of it. Now, I happen to be an extreme programming aficionado. I like the disciplines of extreme programming.
I actually don't know much about extreme programming or any of the other
like
Kanban and Scrum.
Programming and test-driven development and refactoring and simple design and things like that, where we could get into a lot more detail.
Well, maybe
but
I do.
That's just
don't
an
know the
extension on top of Agile.
Okay. I mean, I like this topic a lot. We don't have a ton of time, so I don't want to linger here too long. But I mean, to me, that this oh my goodness, this mostly makes sense in the sense that, as far as I can tell, I think Netflix is one of the best executors of Agile, in the sense that no two teams operated the same. Every team was independent to choose their process, how much process they wanted, what is their cycles, how are they making promises, how are they interfacing with other teams. Like, everyone was their own kind of tower.
Which is what you don't get at 99% of places that you're going to do Agile. Because Netflix has a big budget, their main product, their main value store is their product, is their engineering, and they've got the flexibility to run it in a way. Most other places maybe have that, but they're either their organization is so old that it's structured in a really archaic way and it has this kind of top down. I'm not saying that's archaic, but like, you get what I'm saying. It doesn't facilitate for true Agile, which is what you need. You need that flexibility and that being able to set your own cadence and like Prime said, the way you interface with teams, and that's so vital to the success of it. Otherwise, it's an illusion.
Onto themselves, and it largely worked for quite some time. Obviously, as things kept growing, there's always friction no matter which way you choose. We always said we choose people over process, which I think is the right kind of way to go about things. I think that is very Agile in sense, but it's kind of good to understand kind of how the breakdown effectively.
And it really is. And to be honest, that's all I've really got to say on the matter. It's one of those things. It's very frustrating, but it's so plainly obvious why it doesn't work. I'd love to hear about your experiences with Agile, whether you're a developer or a non-developer, engineering, Scrum Master, whatever. Let me know in the comments. Drop a like on the video and subscribe if you appreciate my takes on these kind of things. Yeah, it's one that's close to the heart. So I'll definitely be making more on this subject along the way. Yeah, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.